Welcome to the Henry Ford's Innovation Nation. I'm Mo Rocca. Today, you're going to be razzle-dazzle.
Coming up, saving salmon with the ride of their lives, hanging in the home of the daddy of dictionaries, getting a kick out of powering light, and the once high-tech is becoming goodbye tech. Now on the Henry Ford's Innovation Nation.
Being a fish isn't easy. I know this because there are 10 sushi restaurants in my neighborhood. Salmon are a great example of fish that have to overcome huge obstacles just to get back to where they came from. Many never make it, but now those salmon have a better chance. They're getting canonized. Here's Adam Yamaguchi.
Wild salmon live an interesting life. They hatch from eggs laid in freshwater rivers, migrate downstream to mature in a saltwater ocean for up to 5 years, then swim back upstream, sometimes hundreds of miles, to find their place of origin to mate or spawn, and start the cycle all over again. But there's a problem. With mankind damming and controlling rivers, fewer salmon are making it back to their home waters to reproduce. But a device called the salmon cannon, that's not a joke, can now help get more fish over water barriers while speeding up the process of separating the wild from the hatched. I made my way up the Washougal River in Washington State to meet with Todd Deligan of Whooshh Innovations, the mad geniuses behind the salmon cannon.
Getting these migratory species to the habitat that they haven't been at for decades now is such a huge issue here in the Columbia Basin here in the Pacific Northwest. If we can help do that, that's really a huge goal of ours.
Getting more salmon to spawn is important to keep the species thriving and to meet the world's demand for fish. Todd and his team worked with the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife to develop this fast and safe fish transportation system. On our visit, the salmon cannon was being used to separate wild salmon from salmon raised in hatcheries.
The salmon swim up and into this holding pen. The biologists will be in the holding pen itself, and they will pick up a fish and they will determine whether it's a hatchery fish or a wild fish. And then the hatchery fish will be put into the Whooshh system and then transported up the conduit into a truck.
The salmon cannon is a pneumatic device, which means it uses compressed air to propel an object inside a closed tube or container.
The fish are then accelerated through the first part of the pump house, and then they're accelerated all the way up the conduit 120 feet to the back of the hatchery truck. And the time it takes for the fish to travel from the beginning of the pump house to the hatchery truck is somewhere between 4 and 6 seconds.
After their 4 to 6 second ride, the salmon end up here, in a freshwater tanker truck, where they'll be transported back to the fish hatchery to spawn and complete their life cycle, while the wild salmon continue upstream.
And what we want are calm fish. We don't want any thrashing around. What we're seeing right now are calm, non-stressed fish.
They're just hanging out.
They're just hanging out, and that's what they should be doing.
The salmon cannon has dramatically slashed the time over previous methods of transferring salmon.
It's really cut down the amount of labor that takes to load up the truck. Prior to this, we were using a forklift with a tote on the front, and then we would load it with water and then with fish, and then we'd have to do 3 trips per truck.
The salmon cannon may be an inspired innovation for getting fish over dams, even separating the different breeds. But does it traumatize them in any way?
This particular method of transport is safer on the fish. It's less handling for the fish. They are transported from their water environment through our system back to a water environment very quickly.
The salmon zip along inside the soft plastic tube that's kept wet to reduce friction, kind of like a salmon slip and slide. This salmon cannon tube is 120 feet long, but there have been successful tests with a 250-foot tube over high dams, and it's not just for salmon. The cannon can help transport and manage different kinds of fish all over the world. It was time for me to get wet, wrangle some salmon, and launch them in the cannon. Yeah, they're feisty and slippery.
Bye guys, see you on the other side.